Odyssey NFL insider Brian Baldinger, host of the Odyssey original podcast In the Huddle with Jason Lockenfor and Carl Dukes, covering the entire NFL. Baldy joins you now here on 105.3 The Fan, and a good afternoon, sir. How the heck are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to be with you guys.
It is great. You know, we've really enjoyed talking football with you over the last couple of years, so we were ecstatic when Odyssey said we could do a weekly for the rest of the season. So thanks to you for agreeing to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you are in Dallas, Texas. I mean, there's nothing else to talk about.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's all football all the time. Let's do it.
Okay, so, you know, people are kind of doing the contender, pretender thing right now with the Cowboys' losses to Philly and San Francisco. Where do you go with that one when it comes to the Cowboys? How much of a contender are they?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's really the conversation in mid-November. I understand it. I get it. I mean, I get asked the question. But every team is still trying to figure things out. The Eagles are still horrible in the secondary. They were great last year. They were intercepting balls, but they might get there this year. Dallas has struggled against elite teams, although they took Philadelphia right to the brink, had plenty of chances to win it. Dallas is trying to figure out their red zone issues. And so I think if Dallas improves in certain areas, like, for example, I think their offensive line is playing really good right now. And it's good to see Tyrant's, healthy next to Tyler and Biotish, and Zach. I mean, it's a good group. And I think they're going to get better if they stay healthy. And I think they'll run the ball better. I think they'll be better in the red zone. And so if you say, okay, November 15th, contender, pretender, I mean, I'd say they're a contender with the chance to be a serious contender because of the way Dak has thrown it, the way Ferguson has stepped up. Nobody seems to be able to cover CD right now. So, I would say that they could be a real contender if they continue to improve in certain areas.
When you study Dak over the course of the last 4 weeks, ever since that 49er game, the offense seems like it's opened up quite a bit. Is he playing some of the best football of his career right now?
I think so. I mean, he was awesome against Philadelphia. He threw it to Schoonmaker on the 1 yard line because that's where he should have gone. But, it wasn't a well, executed play by Ferguson there on the pick. He should have been able to score easily. But regardless, you learn from that, you hope. But I think he's seen the field real good. I think he's being really well protected. And when he has to move, he's moving efficiently. And, he's making good throws on the move right now. So, look, the interception last week against the Giants, a lot of people make that interception right there. I mean, you're not going to not get fooled in this business if you're throwing it 40 times a game. You're going to get fooled. It's going to happen. So, Float, intercepted it. But, I'd rather have Dak being aggressive and taking shots and attacking than to try to play not to make mistakes. So, I mean, I think you just have to live with it, and the defense has to overcome it, and they did last week.
Baldy, do you feel like before the 49ers game, when you watched the Cowboys offense, that they were trying to protect against the interception, and now it's a little bit more of an open attack?
I wouldn't say that. I just think, teams, as the season progresses, like they just become – it changes. Some teams start out hot, and then they cool off, and then
Sure.
they dip, and they try to get it back. Every team just goes through these dips, and the ups and all that kind of stuff. It's all part of the season. But what you want to do is try to really hone in on the things that you like doing, that you do well, that you can go to in crunch time, that you can pull out of your back pocket anytime you're in trouble. And so you try to figure out what those plays are in the run game, the pass game, the red zone, and you try to and then, you've got your deceptives in there, and you try to time those up and use them and sprinkle them in when the time is right.
Odyssey NFL insider Brian Baldinger with us here in the GBag Nation. Is there any hope for this Cowboys rushing attack, you think?
Well, I mean, Tony doesn't look like the same player right now. Now, it's halfway through the season. He's coming back off a major injury. We got to give it a little bit of time still. But he doesn't look like the same explosive player that we're used to seeing, where he just is able to run through contact, break tackles, and then just get into a different gear. We just haven't seen a lot of that right now. And the attack is largely built around him. So I think they're going to be as good as Tony can get right now.
It's Brian Baldinger here with you on The Fan. How important is it to win big games in the regular season? I mean, if you have a great record, you're 13-4, but you lost to all four of the best teams. What's that mean about you going into the playoffs? Anything?
I think your resume counts for a lot. I mean, you want to get battle tested. You want to say that, when you get to January football, whether you got to go on the road, well, we went to San Francisco and we whipped the 49ers, or we went to Philadelphia and we shook them up pretty good. Like, you want to be able to know that if you got to do that, or regardless, you want to play at home, wherever the games are, like, it shouldn't make any difference. People get beat at home all the time in the playoffs. It's a team that executes best. But I do think who you beat, where you beat them during the regular season, I do think it matters. It matters, for example, if they beat Philadelphia 2 weeks ago and they get on that plane ride going back to Dallas, like, they're not putting themselves in a Super Bowl, but they're just saying, damn, we just knocked off the NFC champs from a year ago. Mm-hmm. Like, we could beat anybody. And that's kind of what those big games do to you. Mentally, like whipping up on the Giants, it really doesn't change a whole lot. I mean, guys get their numbers. CD's got 500 yards receiving in 3 games. I mean, guys get their numbers in those games, but I don't know if it builds your confidence the way big wins build your confidence.
Mazi Smith at his best game, it was still, just pretty good. It's not like he dominated, but what do you think of young linemen that don't hit the ground running? How possible is it that he can still be an impact player?
Well, very few are like Jalen Carter in Philadelphia.
Right.
Very few. Most of them almost need a redshirt year. It's just, you play at the University of Michigan and you have, you play Ohio State and you play TCU and who else is on the schedule they played. I mean, you're just not seeing NFL offenses, and you're not seeing the double teams and the power runs. And you're just not seeing a lot of that stuff, and you're not seeing, 340-pound guards, that can just wire you up at the line of scrimmage. So you got to develop, and you need time to develop, and you got to see things. And so it's not unusual. You can look up the stats of almost any elite defensive lineman in this business. Look at Max Crosby. Look what they did their rookie year. And look at Khalil Mack, look at some of these guys, and see what they did. Look at Aaron Donald his rookie year. It wasn't all world his rookie year. So you need to have time to let these guys develop, figure out the game, and figure out what they can improve upon this year as the season goes forward.
Well, as a former offensive lineman, if you could, and you mentioned about the Cowboys offensive line, if you could pick one guy between Biotish and Steele that they need to play at a really high level the rest of the way, which one would you choose?
Well, I think your offensive line is only going to be as good as your center.
Okay.
I feel like you can work with your right tackle. I think there's things that you could do in pass protection for sure. But I feel like if the center is a weak position or average position, that you can't be a great offensive line. And you look across the board and look at what Tyler Linderbaum is doing in Baltimore. Look what Kelsey does every year in Philly.
Right.
I mean, I really feel like the center position is really pivotal to having a great offensive line.
Can Biotish be more than average?
Yeah. He worked on it hard this year. He was with Duke all, in the offseason and
Sure.
getting every chance he could just to work on core strength and techniques and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think Tyler has an upside to him.
When we all love the breakdowns of Micah, and he's one of the most fun players to watch, but what did you think of his game on Sunday against the Giants? He didn't seem too thrilled afterwards.
Well, he didn't do much. He really wasn't very active. I mean, he didn't have a chance to do much. They couldn't really throw it. There wasn't an opportunity to do a whole lot of things in that game. And, everybody wants to affect the quarterback. And the way that they were just sort of moving around and the quarterback scrambling and all that, like there just wasn't a great opportunity to impact the game the way he normally does. Probably his least impactful game of the year. I'm sure that led to a lot of it, but the offense stinks, so it's just like it's not an NFL offense. So it's kind of hard to just go out there and dominate, and really impact the game that's impacted just because they're trying to play without a quarterback.
Okay, Brian, what do we have elsewhere in the conference? How far away are the Cowboys from the Eagles and Niners, and how do you differentiate those two teams, or are they in a dead heat at the top with you?
I'm going to see San Francisco this weekend. I mean, that was an impressive win. Like what Dallas did to Jacksonville last week is sort of what you were hinting at about the Cowboys, wins. And, for San Francisco, both teams were coming off a bye. Both teams were fresh. And so for San Francisco to go down there and stop a 3-game losing streak and look really impressive doing it, you get back on the plane, 6-hour plane ride home, and you're like, we're back. There's nobody we can't beat. We just took one of the AFC's best down, and we annihilated them. So that kind of win could propel them to 5, 6, 7 game win streak, and I expect it will. The Eagles, they have a lot of talent. They're built well. They're not playing defense like they did last year.
No.
They're not affecting the quarterback the same. And if they're going to be a dominant team like they were a year ago, I feel like defensively they've got to get a lot better. And that means either their pass rush has to pick it up or their secondary has to fix their issues, because they've had a lot of issues. Last year, they intercepted 17 passes. This year, they've got 4. They're not getting their hands on passes, and they're giving up far too many big pass plays. So I feel like there's a long way for Philadelphia. A lot of it is injuries, so what? A lot of it is that, but still, they have not played well on that side of the ball.
Brian, what do you make of the Minnesota Vikings? Are they going to have a chance to win the NFC North, or is just Detroit that much better?
Well, I think Detroit is better because they've got real stability at the quarterback position. And look, Josh Dobbs has been amazing. The offensive line has been very good for Minnesota since they picked up Dalton Risner off the street.
Yeah,
they've really gotten very good up front. But defensively, Brian Flores has done a great job. They're a very good defense right now. And you could never say that about them last year. Even when they were winning 13 games, you would never say that they were a good defense. You can say that right now, that they're a good defense, and they were very blitz happy early in the year because I thought maybe they didn't believe in their corners and they just had to get to the quarterback. But they've kind of backed off quite a bit now and are playing very sound football on that side. If Justin Jefferson comes back this weekend and that passing game continues to flourish, like they could be a much better team in the postseason this year than they were a year ago, and maybe they will challenge Detroit before it's all over.
How about the other teams here with Seattle, New Orleans, and then with Detroit and Minnesota as well? In hypothetical, playoff matchups, would you see those 4 being able to knock off of Philadelphia, Dallas, or San Francisco?
No, Seattle maybe. Seattle's got 15 rookies on their active roster. They play a lot of them. And so, Pete Carroll's not afraid to play rookies if they're the right guys. They're going to get better as the season goes on. And, I think that's in a team that's going to improve. They play San Francisco next week, and then they play them 3 weeks later. So you'll learn a lot about them in those matchups against the 49ers. But Geno Smith has struggled the last couple of weeks, in large part because their offensive line has gone up against Cleveland and Baltimore, and they've been annihilated by great defenses. I don't believe in New Orleans. I thought defensively they could carry him, and then they just got crushed last week by Josh Dobbs. So, and they were playing great defense. And then offensively, they just have not put together good games offensively. I don't believe in them. They might get in the playoffs, but I don't believe in them to go very far right now.
Cowboys set to take on Bryce Young and the Panthers. The Panthers got to be kicking themselves, passing up on C.J. Stroud right now, huh? I mean, tale of 2 seasons for Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud.
Well, when you pick the wrong guy, like everybody gets fired. So already Frank Reich is taking back the play calling. Like if I'm going to go down and we're going to be as bad as we look, which is even worse when you look at the tape, because you can't figure out what the offense is and what they're trying to do. But the quarterback does not look NFL ready at all. But it's more than that. Frank is taking back the play calling. I don't think it's going to change anything. I think it's going to be a blowout. But you pick the wrong guy, like the Jets picked the wrong guy, and it happens all the time. Coaches get fired, general managers get fired, new regimes come in to try to fix the mess.
Baldy, thank you so much. You're the man. Have a great weekend.
Okay, take care, guys.